Hey, here's part 9 of Intro to Programming. If you guys enjoyed the exercise I gave you in the last video, please let me know in the comments below. That way I can start integrating more exercises like that into future videos. So with that being said, let's get into today's topic. And today we're going to talk about arrays. An array is basically a collection of data. It's a way we can store multiple data types, or not multiple data types, but multiple variables inside of an array, or multiple instances of an object inside of an array. And they have to be the same type of data. So we can only put all strings inside of an array, or all integers, or all booleans, or doubles, and so forth. But we can't mix and match. So I couldn't put a string and a boolean inside of an array. An array is not dynamic when it comes to the type of data it's willing to accept. It has to be the same. So let's actually print one out here, or write one out. That way you guys can get a visualization. So in order to instantiate or initialize an array, we're going to, let's do string. We're going to, again, just like a variable, tell it exactly what type of data type that it's going to hold. And then this is what signifies the array. I'm going to do an open and closing square bracket. And this is basically saying that it's an array. And then now let's say names. So we'll store an array of names. Assignment operators, the same thing as a variable. Now we're going to say new string. So we have to have this new keyword. This is saying I want a new array. Let's create a new array. And it's also going to be a string array. So I need this right here. So new string, and then end it with a semicolon. But it's still yelling at us, and it says an array creation must have an array size or array initializer. So in between the right-hand side square braces, we need to put the array size. So I can put 4 right here. Now this is important when it comes to arrays. Now that I put 4 here, this array is always going to be have 4 objects in it, or have 4 slots of memory in it. And it's never going to have 2 or 3. It's always going to have 4. So arrays are immutable when it comes to their size. We can't change the size once we create it. Now let's start actually assigning values to these positions. And this is an important concept right here in all programming aspects. So index positions. So names has 4 slots, right? We have names equals 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 positions inside of array because we initialize that size right here. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4. But remember, when you're in programming, pretty much any programming language, indexing starts at 0. So these are all index positions, and indexing starts at 0 because that's how computers work. So this is index position 0. This is index position 1. This is 2, and this is 3. So yeah, we have 4 slots in here, but it's going to end at 3 because we start at 0. So 0, 1, 2, 3, which is the same thing as 1, 2, 3, 4. That might be kind of confusing at first, but you're going to deal with this so much that pretty soon this is going to be secondhand nature to you, and it's not going to throw you off at all. You'll just start thinking in terms of the first element being 0. So let's go ahead and actually assign values to these arrays. I'll keep that up there. So it's actually, I'll push it down to the bottom. But okay, so let's actually assign values to these names. And to access the different positions in this array, access the specific index positions, I'm going to say names at 0 equals Frodo. So now I just assigned the position 0 to Frodo, and the other 3 are still empty. There's nothing inside of the other 3 slots besides the first one. And then let's say names at 1 equals Sam. Names at 2 equals Mary. And does Mary have a Y or an I at the end when it comes to Lord of the Rings? I think it's a Y, but I'm kind of ashamed of myself that I don't know off the top of my head. That's okay. And then Pippin. So now we've assigned every single index position to a value inside of this array. Now let's do a console.writeLine and names at 0. And then hit F5 to run. And you're going to see I get Frodo. That's because names at 0 now equals Frodo because I assigned it right here. And let's grab the last one and just so you guys can see. And then I'm going to get Pippin. And as you can see, I get Pippin. Now, if I were to try to access position 4, I'm going to get a compilation error. It says index was outside the bounds of the array. And what that means is I just tried to access a position that does not exist inside this array. Because remember, yeah, we initialize it to the size of 4, but that only goes up to the 3rd index position, and we just tried to access the 4th index position, and that doesn't exist. So that is always, 3 is the last position inside this array. Now, let's say I want to make this array bigger by changing it up here. and then I can assign 2 more values to it. At 4 equals Aragorn, names at 5 equals Gandalf. So now we've filled up the array once more, but now we're not grabbing the last element of the array. So what if we don't know? What if we don't know the size of the array? Maybe it's created in a dynamic way where we don't exactly know what the size of the array is. Well, we can actually, let's create a integer variable and say length, len for length, and then say names dot length. So I'm accessing the length property of the names, and this is storing the length of the array. And the length is 6. That goes off of regular like counting, not starting with 0. So the length is going to be 6. So if I put length in here, we're still going to get a compilation error because it's still going to say, oh, you tried to access the wrong something that doesn't exist in the array. And that's because we did. This is equal to 6. Index only goes up to 5, and we just tried to access 6. So we'd have to say length minus 1, and then we're going to get Gandalf. And yep, you can see we got Gandalf. Now, I probably wouldn't even, I mean, there are times you'd want to make a variable with the length, but I would probably just say names dot length minus 1 and do it directly in here. But that's just me. And okay, so here's a string array, and now I can I'll just comment this out. Actually, names, I'll put that back there for you. Names dot length minus 1. But I will comment it out. Remember, control / comments everything out you have highlighted. And now let's create a quick integer array. So now we have to specify int, and then the square brackets or square braces brackets to tell that it's an array. And we'll say numbers equals new int 3, like that. And now same thing with numbers, but we just have to make sure we put integer data types in there, otherwise it will not let us do anything. So numbers at 1 equals 5, numbers at 2 equals 20. So that's exactly like the string, but we just have to specify the different data types. Now we can actually assign or create an array in the same line. So if we know we're going to have a small array, it might be a good idea to do. And how we do that is, I think we can just do this. So 5, 6, 7. Yeah, so here's how you can create an array of size 3 with 5, 6, and 7 on the positions. So if I do a console.write line numbers at 0, that's going to give me 5. If I did 1, that would give me 6. 2 would give me 7. 3 would give me an error because the third index position does not exist inside of this array. So if I ran that, you're gonna see that I'm gonna get 5. Yep, got 5. And just like before, we can actually perform arithmetics with this stuff as well. So if you want to play around with that, please by all means do so. And let's actually take a look at some of the properties. So if you said numbers and then hit dot and just see what auto populates, you can see that there's a bunch of different properties. And if you highlight or if you click on one, it'll give you a brief description. So I highly recommend that you go through and check all these out. Most of them I don't even use, but it's just it's a good thing to look. We looked at the length one already. Clone, that makes a duplicate of the array. And then let's see, toString. So I can convert one of these. I can convert the entire array to a string. But yeah, so that's it for this video. Definitely play around with this, try out with different data types and stuff like that. And yeah, I hope you learned something. In the next video, we're going to cover for loops, and it's a way to iterate over these arrays. So let's say we're given a numbers array with 1,000 numbers in it. We could write a simple 2 or 3 lines of code that's going to get the sum of every single number inside of that massive array. Well, it's not that big, but anyways, so yeah, that's going to be something really cool. We'll also be able to print out all of these names and a couple lines of code. And that's really a really cool way to start getting into like dynamic type of programming. So stick around for that video. You're going to learn something. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.